Gentlemen, would you please rise to greet the 11th legends of the Carlton Football Club, Robert Walls. 218 games, 367 goals, a premiership player in 68, 70 and 72 when he kicked 6 in that match and was widely adjudged best of field. He captained the club, he came to coach between 86 and 89. There were 84 games, 55 wins in the 87 premiership. Robert.
Stuart.
It's a journey that began as a 16-year-old, as a schoolboy at Coburg High, and it culminates 41 years later with the highest accolade at the footy club, which I imagine was your first love. What sense of it do you have?
Oh, Jared, let me say I was just thrilled when I got a letter from Stephen Kernahan to say that I would be inducted as a legend. It came as an absolute surprise. I feel very proud and very humbled that the Carlton Football Club thinks I'm worthy of that honour. And I guess the first thing I thought about were the legends who are in it, and you know, John Nichols, Stephen Kernahan, Craig Bradley, it goes on, Ken Hands, who's here tonight. They've just been wonderful Carlton people, and to be considered to be able to be in their company makes me feel really proud, because when I went down to Carlton, I was actually 15 to try out for the under-19 side, and I used to get on the tram, and I lived in Brunswick, and I just wanted to get a game for the under-19s, and I used to get on that tram with my friend Bruce Dool, and who would think that, you know, all of these years later, Bruce obviously a legend and you know, one of the best players of all time. So yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled. And look, the Carlton Football Club was a major part of my life. My dad died when I was 16, and Carlton looked after my mother and me, and schooling and fees, and I just always felt indebted to them. And I was lucky that I went there at a time, Jared, when Ron Barassi, who was up here earlier, he was my hero when I was 15, and I've got to say he's still my hero today. And you know, to have someone like Ron Barassi coach you for your first 6 years, and then John Nichols for the next 4, I couldn't have got 2 better mentors, and just the lessons that you learnt stick with you. And very much it was always, you know, the team over the individual. To be honest, with your assessment of your performance, to treat the game and the people in it with respect, work really hard, not take any shortcuts. So, you know, I was really fortunate to go to Carlton at a time when they started to become a power in the VFL.
You once gave your $25 match fee, or you told them to pay it to your sister because you didn't think you were worthy of it the way you paid. Is that true?
Well, it is true, and believe it or not, my sister's here tonight. And she, about, 35 years more on, she's never volunteered to pay it back. But, yeah, I did do that. And look, I guess it goes back to, again, Ron Barassi, that, you know, you have to earn and you have to deserve everything that you get. And that's the way that we were brought up in those days.
When the opportunity came to coach Carlton, and you were ensconced at Fitzroy, and you'd in fact given some sort of verbal undertaking to remain there, and then the job came up and they came to you, did you have that pull back to the club that had such a hold on you as a teenager, and that you would have been fiercely loyal to want to take it on?
Absolutely. Look, I played in 5 grand finals at Carlton by the age of 23. I didn't realise how good that was until you know, the next 7 years went by at Carlton and then at Fitzroy without playing in a grand final. And when I went to Fitzroy, I realised the regard in which the Carlton Football Club was held by outsiders. So I was on the other side of the fence, and I just saw how people looked at Carlton and admired them for their professionalism, and it made me feel even prouder that I'd been a Carlton player. So when the chance came to go back and coach the Blues, I jumped at it, and well, why wouldn't you? Because when I walked in the door, Stephen Kernahan, Craig Bradley, Peter Motley had just come across from South Australia, John Dorotich, and the next year Mark Nayley and Peter Sartori, young Stephen Silvani, you know, Deanie in the back line, Tommy Alvin, Glazer, Kenny Hunter, along with Gary Crane, Ken Hunter, 2 most courageous players I've ever seen, and it was a pleasure to play with one and coach the other. the dominator, and the list goes on, Harry Madden. So it was fantastic to be able to go back and be part of that talent. And we lost one grand final and we won the next one in '87. And I know that David would be so proud of his boys who are here tonight, the '81-'82 Premiership team. And I guess the '87 boys will always, the '87 team will be always my boys. That's how I regard them. So, you know, they stick with you.
Robert, I'm sure there's some thank yous you'd like to say.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the Carlton Football Club. As I said, you know, from a very young age, it had a major influence on my life and the direction that I took. My teammates, you know, to be able to play with names that even today hold up 40 years on is unbelievable. You know, to play with John Nichols, the strongest presence that I've ever witnessed on a football field. Dooley at centre-half back, the brilliance of Jezza, Jeff Southby, Percy in the ruck, Trevor Keogh, as tough and hard as they come. You know, I just think those players, all I ever wanted to do was earn their respect and to be honest and to be courageous when it was my turn, and I'd like to think that I did that. So I thank my teammates. I mentioned my coaches, Ron and John. I want to thank my wife. My wife, Erin, she was just wonderful support to me for 32 years. And when I met her, she was a Geelong supporter, so she jumped on board at Carlton. She jumped on board when I went to Fitzroy. She jumped on board when I came back to Carlton. She jumped on board when I went to Brisbane. And when I went to Richmond, she said, "Bugger it, I've had enough." My kids, I've got 3 kids, they're adults now. I love my kids, we all love our kids, but I really like my kids and their partners, and you know, having a family life like that has just been terrific. And I've been blessed even more because my partner now is Julie, and I've been with Julie for close to 4 years now, and she's such a wonderful person and support. Believe it or not, we met on a blind date. And the only reason that she would meet me was because she's a Carlton supporter. So I thank Carlton again for giving me that opportunity to meet Julie. And she used to go and watch the Blues play, and she was there for those grand finals and the premierships, and we'd been going out maybe a month or so, and I said, "Well, do you remember me as a player?" And I know she didn't, because all she talked about was the backline players. She loved Bruce, she loved Jess Southby, Dooney, Des English. Anyone who played in the backline she thought was pretty good. But we don't have any Blues. We get on really well. There's only one thing we argue about, and she says I give Carlton a pretty hard time in the media. So I'm going to try to do better than that. Brett, all the best for this year. It was terrific to see that last quarter fight back when you were struggling a bit, and I reckon that showed a lot, and looking back on it, good to be in that position and overcome it. So to Brett and all of the players, I hope you have a terrific season. You're playing for a wonderful club, and I really hope you get the chance to enjoy playing in finals and being successful finals players. Thank you to everyone.